we are kicking off straight away by covering the Peter Kyle story, and we have he's the minister who basically said that Nigel Farage was on the side of paedophiles, he actually said Jimmy Savile.
Who probably is the most infamous paedophile in British history.
Yeah. Now, if you're wondering who Peter Kyle is, I mean, he's the Secretary of State for Science and Technology. And we are now going to talk to, hopefully, Zia Yusuf.
But let's have a listen to
what he said first.
This is what he said on GB News Breakfast earlier with Chris Hope and Ellie.
Grossly offensive are the views of Nigel Farage, I'm afraid, in this regard. The Online Safety Act puts the onus on tech companies to prevent the grooming of children. The Online Safety Act puts the onus on tech companies to prevent under 13s from having access to social media, of course, which includes messaging services for which strange men can contact children. Now, Nigel Farage has said explicitly he wants to overturn that act. Now, words have consequences in politics, because if he gets into power, he will overturn that act and he will make it easier for predators and paedophiles to have access to children. There is no definitive grey area about this. Either you're on the side of predators and paedophiles, as Nigel Farage is, because he wants them to have more access to our children online, than you are with the Labour Party, where we are making sure we are holding the tech companies to account to prevent that kind of access, to keep children safer.
Well, that was a very robust Peter Kyle, the Energy Secretary, doubling down on his criticism of Nigel Farage. Now, put in context, it is an explosive allegation to make against any politician, particularly outside of Parliament, where they don't have parliamentary privilege, to say that Farage is on the side of a disgusting, repulsive monster, which is what Jimmy Savile was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I can understand, right? I'm not playing devil's advocate here, but I can understand the point Peter Kyle, who, remember, is a Labour Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Tech. The point he was trying to make, that in his world, the Online Safety Bill means that children are protected from paedophiles online.
It builds in protections to stop children, some of whom we know have taken their own life because they've been ruthlessly exploited and targeted.
In his world, that's what it does. This bill protects that. So in his world, Nigel Farage and Reform saying we would appeal this bill makes what he said I understand where he's coming from, but he just used the wrong words, and there were ways of getting your points across, and that wasn't it.
And the Reform's take on this is the Online Safety Bill is a massive restriction on free speech. So there you have to measure, you have to then weigh up what's most important here, the argument for free speech, or is Peter Kyle right? If this legislation is axed by Reform, it will enable the perverts, because that's what they are, perverts and paedophiles, to get back at our children, which we've got to protect.
Yeah. However, to make that point by saying that Nigel Farage is literally on the side of Jimmy Savile is just shocking.
This one, as they say in the trade, will run and run.
I think it will.
I think now we can speak to Zia Yusuf, who is a key figure in Reform UK and, of course, is in charge of the DOGE, which is trying to weed out waste in local government, of which I'm sure we wish you well, Zia, because there's an awful lot of waste. Can I ask you, first of all, how do you react to this comparison by a cabinet minister of Nigel Farage to Jimmy Savile?
Well, good morning. I'm 38 years old. It's the most disgusting thing I've heard a politician say about another politician in the political arena that I can remember in my lifetime. It is an act of desperation from a government that is collapsing in real time before our very eyes. Their support is collapsing. They're 8 points now behind Reform, and that's before the Corbyn party's really gotten going, at which point I think there'll be 10 to 15 points. And ultimately, the man he has attacked so disgustingly will be the Prime Minister at the next general election, and he will be looking for a new job.
Zia, what is Nigel Farage's reaction to this? I mean, if someone had said that about me, I'd be absolutely spitting feathers.
Well, look, it's in some ways unsurprising that, because this is a government that cannot win on arguments, it cannot win on the merits of debate and discussion. It wins only now by smearing opponents in disgusting ad hominem ways and by looking to censor speech. So I want to make a really important point. This notion that there is some dichotomy here between child safety and freedom of speech is total nonsense. If you look at what's actually happened since this law has come into force to maximal effect over the last 48 hours, what have we actually seen? Forget about improving child safety. It is diminished child safety. It is protecting predators. Katie Lamb gave a speech in the House of Commons about the grooming gangs, about the rape gangs. That speech has now been censored. You can go and see this on X. It's been censored on X as a result of this law. We've seen protests, footage of a protest against a migrant hotel in Leeds, censored by this law. And by the way, if this was about protecting children, why on earth has the government created an, and I quote, elite police unit, not to protect British people from the crimes of illegal migrants, but to monitor, and I quote, anti-migrant sentiment on social media? This is Orwellian and dystopian. It is going to make children less safe for a whole bunch of reasons, but ultimately it is about making sure the people watching this program right now, the government gets to determine what they can and cannot say online, and there's nothing about that that's remotely acceptable.
Before we were asked about Katie Lamb, the Tory MP, and I must say it is astonishing that any speech that's made in the House of Commons where you have MPs have absolute privilege, they can say effectively what they like without any fear of legal recourse. Can you explain why the government would be wrong to say scrapping this piece of legislation is not going to make it easier for perverts and paedophiles to be able to target children?
Yeah, so the first reason why this needs to be repealed is it's about 200 pages long. I bet you almost nobody who actually passed this, basically the Tory government, actually read it. If they did, then even more shame on them. Look, the fact is, number one, what this does is send these young people and these children off to VPNs. If you're in any doubt about that, if you've got an Apple device right now, go open your App Store, go and look at the chart. 4 of the top 5 apps downloaded in this country as we speak right now are VPNs. These are tools, pieces of software that enable young people to fool websites into thinking they are in different countries.
Can you just let me stop you there? Just explain what a VPN is, because not everyone's going to know what that means. What is it? It's a visual what?
It's a virtual provider network. So what it does is it spoofs a different location to a given website. So you download this app, really simple, and you say, I want to pretend that I'm in Miami or in Denmark or in Holland, and the website thinks that's where you're from. And one of the reasons this is so pernicious is, number one, people who use VPNs are much more likely to end up in the dark web. And as a parent, I'll tell you, however horrific some parts of the internet are, once your kid goes down into the dark web, I promise you it is your worst nightmare. The second really important point about it is, if you are using, as many parents do, the child protection tools with your ISP, whether it's Sky or BT, any of these broadband providers, you can monitor your child's internet use. These VPNs totally defeat those systems. So do not be, if you are a parent watching this, don't be fooled into the false sense of security given to you by these Labour ministers. By the way, this guy saying this stuff about Nigel, how on earth he is the tech secretary and science secretary? From what I can tell, he's never worked in tech. He's never even worked in the private sector. He's done charity work in politics his whole life. So the kids that we are trying to protect supposedly here are running rings around.
How will you protect the kids?
How will a reform? But I want to emphasize the point again. Katie Lamb's speech was about rape gangs. I get that. And that is being censored. And we have an elite police force that is now, quote, monitoring anti-migrant sentiment. This is tyranny and authoritarianism by the back door.
OK, 2 questions. How will a reform government protect children from being abused online by perverts and paedophiles? And also, is Nigel Farage going to take legal action against Peter Kyle to demand a retraction?
So, look, in terms of how we would protect them, we absolutely do think children need to be protected from harm online. There are ways. It's a difficult technical problem for the reasons we just outlined, but there are tools available like zero-knowledge proofs, which is a form of token, basically, that can sit on a device that stores no personal information, but does allow for age verification in a way that doesn't hold personal information. But I want to be clear: the vast majority of this act, of this bill, has nothing to do with child safety. Section 44 allows the Secretary of State to unilaterally order OfCom to rewrite the rules at their will with no parliamentary scrutiny whatsoever. Section 179 makes it illegal and forces social media companies to censor speech that causes, quote, non-trivial psychological harm. Nothing to do with protecting children from pornography. So we will create an act, we will have a bill that is technically competent, technically sound, that does nothing other than protect children and does not seek to muzzle and censor the British people.
Zia, Nigel, the other question was, is Nigel going to take any form of legal action against Peter Kyle?
Nigel's got good lawyers, and generally when Nigel engages lawyers, he wins. Let's see what happens. Look, I think the British people, my personal view on this is that British people are going to see this for what it is, which is some of the last acts of a desperate Labour government that is sinking in the polls and clearing the path for Nigel to be the next Prime Minister.
OK, Zia Yusuf, thank you very much. That's Head of Doge for Reform UK, Zia Yusuf.
Well, that was pretty robust.
Very robust, yeah.
And it does seem like Nigel is going to talk to his lawyers.
Well, yeah.
You see, if Peter, what's interesting about that? So Katie Lamb's speech, Tory MP in the Commons, is being censored on social media, Twitter.
Because she was talking about rape gangs.
Because she talked about rape gangs, and it was really important what she said about the rape gangs. And yet your MPs got absolute privilege to say what they like in the Commons. So that's being blocked. And yet, if Peter Kyle had said what he said about Nigel Farage being a pervert's friend in the Commons, he couldn't be sued. Now Nigel can sue him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's clearly going to talk to his lawyers.
And the hypocrisy also of, you know, Peter Kyle, who voted for the voting age to be lowered to 16, ensuring that anyone below the age of 18 now can't listen to speeches in the Commons. Well, that makes sense.